Thanks. Okay, at this time, we open up for public comment. I'll just make one comment of my own. If you're going to be addressing the board about the issue of the snakes, I'd like you to hold the comments to at least 2 minutes to a person. And if you've already spoken to the board in the past, I'd appreciate just giving your time up to somebody else that hasn't spoken to the board. Your name is in the record. The trustees have all heard your concerns. We don't need to hear the same comment week after week. At this time, open it to the board and rise and state your name and address.
My name is Cynthia Steinman, and I did speak last time, but there were some questions and concerns. My address represents Small Scale Reptile Rescue, which is the placement partner for your animal control ordinance enforcing organization, Washington County Humane. Last time there was some questions about money. What I did, and I do have a copy for everyone, is in the event that you said no more ball python stuff, as of tonight you're done, and Mr. Osley's pets need to be confiscated, I outlined what it would cost and what I would look for from your city through Washington County Humane. In the inspection, which would be me having to go to his home, would be $50 just to have me walk into his home. The transportation for me to drive out to his home for the first time, or even to Washington County, I just did General Slinger, because they're both it's kind of a horse piece each way. It's approximately 60 miles round trip from my home where the rescue is based, so that's an additional $34.50. To take all of his animals, and again, I'm setting this for tomorrow, would be a total of $34.50. 3 times, so you're looking at about $100 just for me to transport those animals from out here to my base in Milwaukee. The weekly feeding costs that my rescue would incur is $230.40 per week. If he decided to fight the change in the law, I would have to maintain those animals for anywhere from a month. Animals have sat in care for up to 3 years throughout court cases. So I would expect you guys to pay the cost of that for as long as you were there. Then I would also have to transport them to my additional foster homes, which are located in the Madison area. That's $121.80 for a 210 round trip, and these are the IRS numbers. And then each animal that comes into my rescue involved in a court case is required a vet inspection. So for all of his snakes, a vet care at my discounted price, I do receive a 50% discount for each one of my exams of $49, would be $4,321. This is also a law kind of being addressed specifically for one person. And as elected officials in the United States can have some responsibilities to the Constitution. A law cannot be written or adjusted that applies to just one person. The constitutional right to due process, which is what we're going through here, means you have to write a law to apply to everyone. If they didn't see those cages coming in, they wouldn't know we had snakes. You don't have any idea how many reptile owners you have, and I am actually taking in an animal from Slinger this evening because they're afraid that that animal is going to become illegal soon, and my rescue will be overwhelmed because of the severe negative media that this is attracted. This is a situation of 2 neighbors fighting. It can be addressed by their board. It was brought up about lawn care and all this stuff that Mr. Osley did not do, that they felt he should for the condo association. The condo association can take care of this. They have their own rules in place. But I am already seeing numerous laws.
Excuse me, she has the floor.
Yeah, I know.
Any additional outburst, you will be removed from the room.
Remove me.
Let's go.
Fine.
But if it's okay if I can drop these copies off. Also, my email's address is on there. I could not locate the entire board's email address. I have a few laws that I would like to send to you, as well as some basic reptile care information. And also, there are places outside of Wisconsin that have laws written in place for animals of variety. And it addresses minimum cage requirements, what we call standards and practices. And if you are going to look at a law, I urge that you don't rush into it and you look at standards and practices, because there is no one at Washington County Humane who can truly enforce a reptile law. I'm the person that they'll call in to do that. So I'd like to try to help prevent anyone else getting rid of their 14-year-old pet after raising it for 14 years because they're afraid of their pet being bad. So I'll give this to you, and if you could pass it out, and I just appreciate
Sure.
that. Email me. I will keep your emails private and get you some information that'll help you form what you're going ahead to do.
Do you have any extra copies of that for the media?
If you would like to give me information, I'd be happy to send it to you.
Mr. President, could I ask a question to the speaker?
Yes.
Ms.
Sure.
Steinley, when you were calculating your costs, how many snakes were you using?
149.
149,
Correct.
is that the set number now? Because
Correct.
last time there was a question.
That was also something that was in question, so, those numbers couldn't be given until we had the exact number of animals and went through what we have in the rescue available. We have taken in far more, but the ones that we took in that were in large quantities like that were nowhere near as healthy and well cared for as Mr. Osley. They were actually severe neglect cases. It's like keeping a fish in a tank. These are animals that are kept in an enclosure. They don't free roam homes. If they're properly kept, they're in an enclosure, so you can't compare them to a dog or a cat as you formulate things.
Thank you.
Sure.
Is this where other people can talk about the news as well? My name is Jean Selesky. And I have something to read, and I also have some copies to give to the board. To the Village of Slinger Board of Trustees, after the last Village Council meeting on Monday, March 2nd, 2015, several members of the Farmstead Creek Condo Association met and discussed how we felt the discussion of our snake problem went and thought we should share our views. First of all, we would like to thank the board for saying that as much as they appreciated the many people that came out and supported the snakes and their owner, the board needs to listen to the residents of Slinger and do what they can for those residents rather than persons that lived outside the Slinger area. This statement would have been more appreciated if it would have been come at the beginning of the meeting rather than towards the end. One snake specialist or expert, which would and should have been enough. I, for one, would have liked to address some of the comments the snake supporters said. However, I felt intimidated by the way they would talk down to us and contradict what the residents were saying. We may not be snake savvy, but everyone is allowed to have their own opinions about snakes, and we as residents of this neighborhood would rather not be living that close to over 100 snakes. After listening to the ease of caring for snakes, fed once a week, clean container, and that they would rather be left alone, I question whether they were actually talking about a pet. The definition of the word pet, any domesticated or tamed animal that is kept as a companion and cared for affectionately. A definition of the word hobby, an activity pursued for pleasure or relaxation, not as a main occupation. I believe this should be considered more a hobby and not the loving pet the snake supporters described. The fact neither the owner nor the expert knew how many snakes were housed at 616 on 3-2 was very disconcerting. If there is no accurate count of the snakes, how can we be sure that there is an accurate account of the snakes? When this all started, the owner admitted in an email dated 2/7/15 to having 10 to 12 snakes. However, in reality, per police and DNR visit, had 103. At the 3-2 meeting, the owner wasn't sure and then said maybe 115. That means that in short of a month, he acquired at least an additional 12, and now we hear it's 149. We question if he has a receipt of purchase for these snakes, or were they bred in his condo. On the owner's Facebook page, since shutdown, he posted on 2/5/15 that he purchased a breeder pastel coral glow snake, which would be delivered once the weather permitted. Also on the 5th, he stated on his Facebook page, I have been raising female het ghosts and entry het ghosts just for him. Why have a breeder snake if not planning to breed? He also stated on 2/20/14, which is a year ago, we realized, he had Burmese and reticulated pythons. These snakes can get up to 15 feet or longer. Before the police and DNR visit on 2/13/15, the owner was observed removing large bins to his heated truck. If he only has ball pythons, but he claimed he owned these other snakes, where are they? Did he sell them? get rid of them? Or more importantly, when will they return? Snakes can be a lucrative business. The owner has spent a great deal of money on his pets, or should we say hobby. Ball pythons can sell from $100 to $65,000 each. And I've got some web pages that this has been confirmed on. And our concern is whether these sites are accurate or not, is that the hobby avocation appears to be more of a business requiring legal compliances and licensing. It was stated on 3.2 that the snakes very rarely travel farther than 3 feet from their cages. We question, are snakes really that smart? Or are they wearing shock collars? This comment didn't alleviate any of our concerns. Another comment made by a snake supporter was about special needs people and snakes. He claimed that special needs people gravitate towards snakes and use them for therapy. He went on to say that special needs people know what it is like to be an outcast, and so do snakes, so they help each other feel accepted. I would like to take issue with that comment. Having worked with special needs children and adults my entire life, I have heard of therapy dogs, cats, and horses, never a therapy snake. I will admit I've heard of the therapy kangaroo and beaver dam, but we'll not go there. One of the sole purposes and goals when working with people with special needs is to assist each person to work toward being an acceptable, contributing part of society. And it works vice versa as well, working with society to become more accepting and assisting to a person with special needs to join society. I have never heard of the goal to become or remain an outcast, and did not appreciate the inference that supporter made towards the special needs population. Again, we appreciate the board for listening to our concerns and views, and are hopeful that as residents of the village of Slinger, you will assist us to make the correct decisions to help with this problem. Included in your decision should be some way to monitor and enforce whatever revision you come up with about controlling the number of snakes and other exotic animals in the village of Slinger. Thank you, the Farmstead Creek Condo Association.
Do you have a copy that we can?
I have a whole folder full. Someone can send that with you.
Does anybody else like to address the board today?
Yeah, I'm Charles Ranstrom. I just came here to kind of address some of the issues. With going back on what she said on using them for therapy for special needs. I'm part of the Fox Valley Herp Club in Appleton, Green Bay, and one of our members actually has PTSD, and he is one that's very outspoken that the snake helps him with that, along with some of the children that we teach. They have snakes at home that say if they're kind of introverted, you know, it's kind of a pet that they can deal with versus, you know, dogs and cats jumping up on them and stuff like that. As for taking snakes in, I personally know from some of the burden that it places. We've rescued some that were starved or people didn't take care of them. From the sounds of it, it sounds like they're all properly taken care of. As some of the snakes we use up there for teaching, they all get taken out and brought to schools around the Fox Valley for teaching. 150 snakes does not take a lot of room, a lot of resources to take care of them. We're talking a 10 by 10 room, 10 by 20 room, and they all have plenty of room for everything, like they're saying, the cage requirements, all that. As for a safety issue, I don't foresee any of them being a safety issue. I personally have had large snakes in the past. Anybody that takes care of them knows, you know, if you need to, the cages have to be secured in a certain manner. As for ball pythons, they're kind of one of the tamest snakes out there. I just brought a quick picture if you guys want to pass that around. That's of my girlfriend's 2-year-old with a ball python. She's in no danger. She's grinning ear to ear. She is absolutely happy every time she's around that thing. It's never bit or showed aggression. If anything, it just wants to be left alone, like you were saying. You can handle them in that, but they're most content in their cages. All of our snakes, like I said, go to schools. I just went to the Boys and Girls Brigade in Eno, and we had about, I think we brought about 70 snakes with us. And we're talking a cart about yay big. We went through about 100 kids in 2 days, and not one of them got bit. And these are snakes that are raised in about the same conditions. You know, they get handled weekly to get cleaned and all that. These aren't ones that get handled on a daily basis. They don't get aggressive like that from not being handled every day. I just hope you guys don't rush into anything. Like she was saying, there is a lot of different laws out there. Even going to Florida where they have issues with Burmese and stuff like that getting out, they even go to a like an RFID chip, you know, like you get put in cats. They do stuff like that. They do permits. They do 100 different ways in different cities around there, other than getting rid of them or destroying them. Thank you.
Anybody else? Name and address.
Rick. Within the village of Slinger. I would request the board get some independent advice on the snake issue, what the snake is or isn't. Also, did anybody independent confirm snakes that were in that residence, or just taking somebody's word for it? Police did. And well, is he an expert? He can identify, because from what I read in the encyclopedia, there's all kinds of colors in a ball snake. They're bred in all different colors. So
I did open every.
excuse me, I'm talking. Our biggest concern is the residents of the subdivision, along with the residents of his neighbors in the condos. We believe, with all sincerity, that he's selling them. He's breeding them and selling them. That's quite a lucrative business according to what you read on the internet. And also, according to the encyclopedia about ball pythons, they're recommended because they are loners. They don't do well when they're in multiple snakes in one cage. The minimum size cage is recommended by the experts. I have to believe that the encyclopedia would get it from an expert, is 2 foot by 3 foot by 1 foot high. And if he's got 100 and some snakes in a 1,200 square foot condo, I wonder where he lives in that condo, because that's going to take up probably half the condo. And their ideal temperature for living in good health is 80 degrees. You don't put cages on a basement floor and keep snakes happy at 80 degrees. The other thing I wanted to convey, I was recently put on the Farmstead Creek Subdivision Association board. We just reformulated it this past week. And in the meantime, since last week Monday, there are several of the residents of our subdivision that have expressed concern about these snakes. Not as much about afraid that the snakes are there, it's what they're going to, the fact that being commonly known, what it's going to do to our property values. And I realize we're not in the condo, but we're right up against it. In fact, we have one of our houses in our subdivision is closer to that condo than some of the more northern condos in that condo. So we're very close proximity, and I want the board to know that the residents that talk to me are very concerned about this and really are relying on the village board here to protect our interests and protect our safety. I realize this ball python, from what I read in the encyclopedia, is a very docile, just like the gentleman was describing. It's not going to attack people, but it will scare people to death. Some people, if they happen to come across one. Now, are they gonna escape? Probably not, but there's no 100% guarantee in the summertime, especially with the number that he's supposedly keeping. So anyway, I wanted to relay that to the board, mainly because I've already got some input from my neighbors. And all of them went out of their way to talk to me about it. So I wanted you to know that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got a question right now. Charles, I just spoke. Is there any law in the books right now pertaining to, is there any exotic animals that are banned, or is there just a length limit from what I understand?
We have a current ordinance that keeping exotic animals is prohibited.
Okay.
And, but we allow keeping of non-venomous snakes and lizards.
Have any of you had any experience with any of these animals at a zoo or in person, or anything like that?
I don't think we need to be so sad. We just need to know what we feel, our own opinions. We don't need to have those questions.
We don't need to have this cross back and forth debate going on.
Have you guys had any encounters with them at a zoo or in
I'm sure that each
public, or?
individual trustee has had some experience along the way.
Because I just feel snakes and spiders, that kind of thing, is more of a personal thing. I mean, it's one of those that generates a fear. I know people that are terrified of them, even though they know that there's nothing to be afraid of them. And I'm terrified of spiders, I'll say it. And I cannot stand them. Love snakes. But like I said, I urge you guys not to jump on it, make a law right away. Like they said, contact other people, get other input. And if there is no law in having them in the city other than, for venomous, if any of you guys are willing to look at ball python after the meeting or whatever, I did bring one with me. And if you have no experience on them, you never have anything like that. I don't, unless you have several opinions like they said, I don't think you really should be ruling on it. But, thank you.
My name is Jim Melvin, I'm a real estate agent, and I know that Mr. and Mrs. Ball have talked to her agent and said that this is a material adverse fact. They can't sell their condo. Now, if they had a medical issue, they had to sell for some reason, they could not sell that condo because of stigma. So you're limiting their possibility of moving. If these are pets, why does he have 149? I have no objection to this gentleman having a pet. He's got 2 snakes, 3 snakes, fine. But he's running a business. Has anybody checked with the state if he's licensed? Does he have a tax ID number? I mean, I don't know how this can go on. We know all the information, evidence that's been shown before that it is a business. And I don't know how you run a business out of a condo association companies. It's ridiculous. So somebody's got to do something about this. Pass a law, talk to your attorneys. There's got to be something that can be done. I don't know this gentleman. I have nothing against him. If he wants to have a pet, fine, but he's not. He's breeding. And I want to know why all these people come out of this community get to talk. And how many snakes do you have, sir, back there? How many?
Excuse me, you address the board now.
I was going to, can I ask him a question?
After the meeting. you
Oh,
can.
okay, all right. But anyway, I was just wondering why they get to speak here and talk about people from Milwaukee, Appleton, Illinois, I guess came up at one time. Why is that prohibited? I mean, not prohibited, but why is that allowed?
Oh, we don't ask you. We have to allow all sorts of opinions.
Okay, but they're not taxpayers.
Other taxpayers someplace.
They're not here.
Well, not in this community, sir.
No, that's an issue that is not valid here.
Okay, so you say.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah. I spoke last time. I want to address a few other things. I'll make it quick. First of all, I appreciate you guys hearing me. My name's Ryan McVeigh. As a founder of Madison Area Archaeological Site. Some of the information off our website was even used at the last meeting. First, again, I appreciate you guys listening to me speak. understand, why people see the concern of people like myself coming over that don't live in Slinger. However, I'm up here as an expert, someone who's dealt with these animals, rehomed these animals, have 20 years of experience with these animals in order to give you guys the best information. You can make a good judgment call on what needs to be done. I expect the same thing when I'm learning about something new, and if I have to do something, I want the best information I can, and that's why I'm here for you guys. I do support Chad and what he's doing, because I do it myself and I know what it takes. I understand the concerns of the people around. I think a lot of it has to do with just an ignorance of not knowing what it takes. We've heard a lot of back and forth between the last couple of meetings of what it takes to care for these animals. And I do understand that you can Google things, but that's different from the experience of actually doing it and understanding it and having these animals. The reality for me comes down to one thing, and that's from what I've heard from all of the neighbors, they care about the number that he has, and that's one of the concerns of the board. But a lot of the arguments against it are still valid. If he has one or two, they're still going to have that argument. They're still going to have that fear, whether he has 1, 2, 4, or 500. Okay, so you're not worried about it getting out if he has one, but if he has more, and then even though he spent $10,000 on a escape-proof agent. Either way, the reality is numbers are arbitrary. They don't mean anything when it comes to animals. I can keep one dog and be a horrible keeper, have it barking all night, be a public nuisance, not clean my yard from the droppings, have it tearing up the house. Or other people can have 5 dogs and have a great house that are well cared for. If you're going to make an ordinance on how you're dealing with animals, in my opinion, the best way to look at it is like city standards and practices. Make sure the animals are well cared for. So whether someone keeps 5 or 100, if they're all well cared for, he's had them for 4 years, 5 years he's been there, and no one knew because there's no smell, there's no noise, there's no public health issues, there's no public issues with public safety issues. Everybody just hears a number and hears a snake and gets freaked out. And that's what all of this is. So to find that one thing and have everybody get freaked out and then make an ordinance against it, to me is government overreach, when the reality is, from what everyone's even said, this is a condo association issue if they're worried about it. There are other people in this town that don't know that this is happening that are going to have reptiles. And you're going to turn all those people that have maybe 4 or 5 snakes based on an arbitrary number into doing something illegal when they don't even know about it. And what it's going to do is it's going to flood possibilities of a lot of animals into rescues. The police are going to have to deal with a lot of calls and stuff. There's a lot of cost in that when you're looking at one person that hasn't done anything illegal yet, hasn't done anything wrong, and no one's really known about it. Just because there's no smells or anything like that. I would be here on the opposite side saying that he should lose them if it was smelling, if it was ammonia, if it was neglect and care issues, but there's not. They're all in great health. And whether people have seen it or not, if they weren't in great health and you have that many animals, you'd smell it. Neighbors would know. So that's just all I had to say, and I appreciate your time and effort. And if anybody wants to contact me again, I run the Herb Society, I do education with kids, I've dealt with hundreds of animals, I work with the DNR, I have credentials that I could list on a couple of pages of paper. And I've worked with ordinances and boards from all over the state dealing with these kind of issues and how to look at them and address them in a way that doesn't turn law-abiding citizens into criminals.
My name is Jessica Grinke. I spoke last time, and I just want to kind of make a quick statement about the self-employment tax paying. I am a self-employed massage therapist. Under self-employment, to pay taxes on income, you have to be able to have income. You cannot spend more and have to pay taxes on it. You have to have it as income. So to keep these animals, he is spending much more in that care than what he would do if he were to be selling them. And his hobby is very young. Put it this way, he hasn't sold anything that could even come close to even paying off half of the animals that he has.
Excuse me?
He is not at that point where he would have to consider it a business. He's not at that point where he would be having to pay taxes on that because it is not income. He's just simply having a hobby that others around enjoy and take part in. It's really no different than somebody that would restore a car. I mean, you sell that car when you're done with it, but you probably put a lot more into your hobby than what we were to get out of it. So that's my statement about that.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I just want to say,
Name, please.
oh, Harold Bublitz, B-U-B-L-I-T-Z. And I would just like to say, all these coming in from different cities or wherever they're coming from, where they come with all this stuff, what's going on. We live right here. We want the board to consider who we are. We live here in Slinger. And we want to make sure that you people understand that we do not, maybe he has all in pits, but I said before, he's gonna multiply, they're gonna have babies. Where are all these snakes gonna go? So I just want the board to consider seriously that we live here in Slinger. We pay our taxes and everything here. Let's keep it right here.
My name is Charlie Ball. I'm one of the ignorant snake people. I happen to live in the building with him. This is destroying my health. I cannot sell my condo. I told you that before. I called his father. I asked his father to buy my condo. Him and his wife could live next door to their son with the snakes. His father, however, is afraid of snakes, can't stand snakes, wants no part of snakes, so therefore he won't take my condo either. And after my health is destroyed, my retirement life is over. The only comment I have, and the quantity is what the problem is, not one or two. And Jeff mentioned in the first board meeting that you knew that there was a snake problem here 2 years ago. He had 2 snakes, not 100. He had 2 snakes. That was witnessed by the police department here. He had 2 snakes. Now he's got 149.
Okay, we wrap this up? Okay, we'll close the public comments. And then we'll return to the agenda and a review of the proposed ordinance regarding section 13.03, keeping exotic animals.
Okay, at the last meeting, as we're all aware, staff was directed to draft some proposed revisions to the ordinance. So what you have before you is our first attempt at this. After my memo, the second page contains the ordinance as it reads right now. And just for everyone's information, the current ordinance is chapter 13.03, keeping exotic animals is prohibited. It shall be unlawful for any person or persons to keep, maintain, or harbor exotic animals on a property or in any residence, household, or dwelling unit within the village of Slinger. Exotic animals under this section includes, but is not limited to, live alligators, crocodiles, caiman, monkeys, members of the feline species other than the domestic cat, Felis domesticus, member of canine species other than the domestic dog, Canis familiaris, wolf dog hybrids, prairie dog, Gambian rat, venomous snakes, lizards capable of growing to more than 5 feet in length at maturity, non-venomous snakes capable of growing more than 6 feet in length at maturity, venomous invertebrates, and venomous amphibians. That's the current ordinance. And what staff did was we researched the many other community ordinances that Chief Schmidt had located and came up with some combinations and some tweaks on ours. The prohibition would now read, if as proposed, it would read, it shall be unlawful for any person or persons to keep, maintain, harbor, breed, or sell exotic or wild animals on a property or in any residence, household, or dwelling unit within the village of Slinger. And then what we did was expanded the definition section to give it its own section. Exotic or wild animal for purposes of this section shall have the meaning as provided in Wisconsin statute the following. And then we have approximately 36 or so examples. Regarding snakes, let's see. That's item H, constrictor or non-venomous snakes. Then what we did was create exceptions to this which would be subject to permit. And what we're proposing here is not so much a licensing of each individual animal as was suggested at the last meeting, but perhaps a permit system for the household. And this would be an annual fee. It would be 1 fee per household, and it would be subject to the conditions as listed. For instance, and this is subject to the board's wishes. We just have a few examples here. You could have no more than X number of non-venomous snakes capable of growing to no more than 5 feet of maturity, no more than X number of non-venomous lizards capable of growing to no more than 3 feet of maturity. You could also include ferrets, a beekeeping operation, whatever animals you wish to consider as allowed under permit. And those permits would then be at staff level, so that it wouldn't have to come before the board or have a public hearing on it. Those would be the animals that you consider allowable under certain circumstances. And the conditions for exception, the owner keeper would have to comply with all applicable state and federal importation regulations and permit requirements, and possess any required veterinary health certificates. The owner would have to submit to the village clerk a completed application for an exotic animal permit, and that would list the type and number of the subject animals and the proposed location within the residence, household, or dwelling unit. And we feel this would be advantageous, for instance, for any law enforcement or emergency medical staff that would have to go into the residence for a call to know that there were exotic animals on the premises. The animal would have to be held securely and maintained in quarters so constructed as to prevent their escape. And should a permit be granted, such permit would be renewed annually with updated information on the subject animals provided on a renewal application form. That's what we're proposing that would happen at staff level. And then, depending on the board's wishes, there are 2 other options for further exception to this ordinance. One would be to institute a fancier's permit. And that would be something that would require a public hearing. And that would give the board the authority to make an exception to anything on this list, whether the number of animals or the type of animal. Whatever someone came forward to the board and said, look, I think, I need an exception to this rule because of whatever, they would be able to state their case. It would be a public hearing kind of situation, so there would be notices issued and it would be posted for the public hearing so that any concerned neighbors or any other people wishing to state their case on the matter would be given that opportunity. And that would be, that person would have an application process also. The other option would be to institute some kind of appeal rights on this. So there wouldn't be a fancier's permit, but it would have a right to appeal the decision, and it would also be a public hearing process. Those are the 2 kind of appeal type of options. And then the other 2 items that we have included in here for your consideration is Section E, which is existing non-conforming animals, and upon recommendation of the village attorney, this would institute a time frame per the board's direction that would require anyone with an existing number of animals in excess of whatever is decided within the ordinance. It would give them time to bring themselves into compliance with the new regulations. The other item that we've got in here that isn't in the present one is non-renewal or revocation of permit. If a permit system is adopted, the board would still retain the right to not renew it or revoke it, depending on complaints or incidents observed.
Okay, I'd just like to point out, most of you, all of you realized that one page was missing when it came with your packet, so probably except for me, most of you did not have a chance to really digest that missing page.
Yeah, and the page she's referring to is the section C, D, and E, and F, the exceptions with the subject to permit, the conditions for exception, existing non-conforming animals, and the fanciers determine option in that. And completed copies were provided at your places listed here.
You know, we're adding a lot of different species in here. The one that kind of jumped out at me was ferrets. I had a neighbor across the street from me that had a couple ferrets. And really didn't have any problem with that. I wouldn't want a ferret myself because I thought they were a little stinky, but they have a musk gland and.
Yeah, and that's why we've included those as something that could be allowed for permit. I mean, you can also, you can take that right off the list if you wanted. Or you could make it subject to a permit so that, you know, it's at a certain number you would consider acceptable.
I have a question. Letter H, as far as the definition, restricted or not venomous snakes.
What was missing from here was venomous snakes, but again, these are just really definitions.
Well, I guess my question is, type of snake, as an example that we're looking at in the last couple of weeks, is that considered a constrictor?
All snakes that aren't venomous are constrictors.
I know that completely.
Garter snakes are venomous.
Yeah, the venomous portion is actually included in that top phrasing there. Except for wild animal, you see the venomous wild animals, insects, reptiles, invertebrates, amphibians. So venomous is already covered up there, and then this covers non-venomous. However, they could be allowed subject to the permit system. If you wish. The extensive list of animals under the definition section, we basically got that South Milwaukee and Mequon and a couple of other communities had very extensive lists like that. Those were the examples we were doing that.
Did any of those communities have a number that they applied to?
South Milwaukee is the only one.
Only one.
Phase two. And unless you found something in the time.
I have a question, it's probably in here, I didn't see it, but is it addressed in here, let's say, we find out that someone is having snakes and they have done the permit thing, is there a penalty if you catch somebody, for lack of a better term?
Right now, the only thing we're proposing is an ordinance citation. So there would be a daily fine actually until they're brought.
So, but there is that clause.
Would it be the same as 13.04 would remain, this is just 13.03.
Oh, I bet that's.
No more than 3 incidents.
Violation of the above section.
For the non-renewal?
Or citations.
This is in the original ordinance.
Correct.
Right.
When we look at the new one presented, it says 3 or more separate such incidents within a 12-month period documented by a police officer, et cetera, to make that non-renewal. I just, a couple comments, Russ. I heard earlier this evening, the first person that spoke on bad with me, so forgive me there, but did make a comment about not making it just for one person, but for all citizens. And that's what I think we're trying to do here. Just happen to have one case here, we have no X amount of snakes. To the gentleman that stated might not like snakes or spiders, I'm one of those. But as I sit up here, I do what's best for the community, not best for myself, but to serve the community and what I see here as the best interest of the community. I don't have a problem with snakes being part of being allowed, again, as long as they're not venomous and so forth. But there's definitely got to be a limit. I'm a dog lover. Yeah, I believe I couldn't have more than 3 dogs. I look at that the same way with any type of animal listed here. You are going to have something either allowed or with dogs and cats in quantity. You should be having across the board, not just picking and choosing where you're going to have a quantity, where you're not going to have a quantity. Just my opinion, but we're up here to serve the citizens. Appreciate your input, but I look at it as far as what we're looking at, what we've heard over the last month. We have to set a number that's within reason. And I think what I've heard from all the neighbors out there, I think it's livable when I have 1 or 2 or whatever that number may be. It's not that 149 or 150 or 100 number that's out there. If I lived out there, I'd have the same concern. I'd have the same concern for the whole village.
I have all those same sentiments as Super Trustee Cole.
I don't know what that number is, so.
Right.
Well, that's the thing I struggle with, and you know, I do think for the staff level permit, you know, we've got to come up with a number that's acceptable. I do think that there should be at least a fancier's permit as the next step, that if somebody can demonstrate to the board through a public hearing and whatnot, that this is something that's viable, it should be an option, whether it's snakes or lizards or whatever. You know, we have to keep an open mind that, you know, there's different likes and dislikes. Yeah, so the majority of the people are dogs and cats, but there is that minority, and we should protect the rights of the minority at the same time. I think a lot of the issues that are plaguing this condo thing could be addressed through their own condo regulations and things like that. It's something that I'm sure when they drafted the original documents, never thought you'd have a situation like this. And the village of Slinger is in the same way. We didn't have a problem when we adopted the exotic animals, our original ordinance, but there was a problem in Milwaukee, and it was as a result of a criminal activity. And I think many municipalities at the time decided to take the issue up and pass an ordinance to be preemptive. Now whether the ordinance was right or wrong, you know, apparently we should have put a number on snakes, but at the time that never came up. You know, there wasn't anybody in the community that spoke against it or for it. Or, you know, it's certainly publicly noticed. That it's usually is the case, you know, unless it's right in your backyard, you don't pay much attention to it.
Mr. President, I think I need to echo the comment about quantities. Primarily from the standpoint of we're dealing with creatures here that come from the natural environment. They're immediately displaced. They're out of their natural environment. And anybody that knows anything about ecosystems understands that there's a direct inverse relationship due to the sheer number of anything per unit area. And in this particular situation, we have an extraordinary amount of something, and again, a very small unit area. The part that concerns me the most is, we've talked about this through 3 separate meetings, and every time I hear more data, and the data frightens me even more, because the sheer quantity of snakes that are at this residence keeps going up. And it has exponentially gone up drastically in the last 12 to 16 months. Fortunately, there's been some keen awareness by people who've lived in the subdivision that have brought it to the community's attention and our attention. I can't count on both my hands the number of people I've interacted with that saw me out in public over the course of the weekend, and this was what was on their mind. These people didn't live in that subdivision, but they did live in this community. So I can tell you that there's concern out there. There was a comment that was made earlier, 2 meetings ago, our last meeting, excuse me, when we point blank asked the owner of these snakes, "Are you breeding these?" His answer was no. However, you in the very same meeting, you disclosed a remark that he was.
I don't know him.
We also heard tonight from a separate, altogether different person, and I quote, "He has not sold anything that would have covered at least half of his investment." What that statement tells me is, if he's doing it, he's doing a good job doing it undercover. But worse yet, he can't tell me that he hasn't thought about the idea. And that's the part that we need to address here tonight as a board. This has gotten way out of hand. It needs to be reined in. And at the same time, we need to do that for the benefit and the protection of everybody that lives in this community. The unique part about this scenario is it isn't particular to just this community. If you listen to the news at all in the last 7 days, you'd find out that there's another municipality in Racine County that's going through the exact same enigma that we are. So we're not alone. And my guess is this is just the first of many additional municipal ordinance changes that could be in store in the future. I'm going to go back to another comment that you had made earlier. And you had said that most people fear snakes because of the sheer ignorance of their care, their behavior, and their mannerisms. I can't agree more. Snakes are a fearful animal. And I think because people fear them, they don't want to take the vested interest to learn how to properly care for them. Because they are so threatening. And that's what we as a board need to be concerned about, is the sheer threat and possible trepidation that comes when being around these animals. I applaud your level of enthusiasm for these creatures, because I tell you, you're a better man than I am. I could never do it. But at the same time, we can't remove you from that opportunity of having a couple snakes. We just need to cautiously approach the sheer quantity. A week ago, we were in the same room as a planning commission, talking about regulating the quantity of chickens that somebody can have in the community. I don't know how threatening chickens are, but if we're going to regulate chickens, you know, we definitely need to regulate venomous and non-venomous snakes. That's just my opinion.
Okay, the question is, this evening is, the trustees, are you ready to put some numbers to this thing? Is it,
And just to reiterate, this was definitely just proposed revisions. If there's any section of it that you think needs to be tweaked further or needs to be expanded or removed, let us know.
We have not sent it to the village attorney at this point, since it was such a draft
some of the species that are listed under B as definition. And my questions center around the animals that are typically found as native to our existing area. I'll give you an example. Coyotes, bison, and deer. Those types of animals, wouldn't they be already regulated by the DNR? So, in all essence, is it necessary for them to be in our ordinance?
Well, I think didn't some of these definitions come from the state? Or
From other communities.
your other communities?
I mean, if you, I don't think it can hurt if one of these would fall under that to have it in your own, because then
There's no
instead
question.
instead of calling in the feds, which could take 2 weeks for them to get here, we can go up there an hour and say, look, now as far as getting rid of a bison, I don't know.
Well, we don't allow big animals anyways, but.
But, you know, alligators, a number of years ago, less than 10 years ago, somebody in Thressa had an alligator.
I had an
So-
alligator when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's possible.
But, you know, we had chameleons in the house. But my mom loved those things. Yeah, we had a good time raising big chameleons that lived 4 or 5 years in captivity. I don't know if that's on or not, but.
So taking that into consideration, and also the fact that the next step of this is identifying the quantity that we would deem as appropriate, I would suggest that we take a little bit more time to review and research this list. Just gonna throw an example out there, raccoon. I'm sure it's possible that somebody could have a raccoon as a pet. A raccoon is not on our list.
Well, I don't think that this list is all inclusive. It says it's including but not limited to the following.
Right.
So I
Because
guess-
we figured you could come up with.
You could come up with, there's how many-
pages of animals, that's why it's, the way it was written was.
We can certainly add them. It
So
doesn't hurt.
let's go to the top, B, definition. Let's take this into consideration. Is a raccoon dangerous, yes or no? One person says it is, one person says it's not. Is a raccoon
Well,
carnivore?
it's not the cuddly little kitty cat, that's
Carnivore.
for sure. It's carnivore.
Yes, it is, and yes, it isn't. It's not opportunistic. It'll eat whatever's available, meat or non-meat. It's not poisonous, it's not venomous, it's not an insect, it's not a reptile. So, I'm just saying we should take a little bit more time to really comb through this. If we're gonna make a change, let's make sure it's right the first time around.
It was like, you know, when I was reading the list, it brought to my mind this issue of in Beaver Dam, people with kangaroo. I said, well, I would have never thought somebody would have a kangaroo as a pet, but I mean, anything's possible.
Beaver Dam City Ordinance to a T.
One other question, other than the list itself, letter A, as far as maintaining arbor, breeding or selling, that's also a new addition? Or is that in our existing?
The breeding and selling was added.
See, that's where you could have the option of having a fancier's permit. And I see that more happening if somebody was in a single family residence. You know, I think a lot of these problems result in multifamily situations. People are too close together for something like this. If you have somebody that's on a 1 acre lot, had 100 snakes in the house, you wouldn't know the difference. I don't think the neighbors would know or care. I probably have more than 100 snakes right outside my door. It scares the heck, it scares the crap out of me. Mowing the lawn, you know, ah!
I would agree with Lee's comments in regards to, we could have a couple of weeks or so to look at and maybe do some research on our own and find out if there's a magic number out there for specific things, and to your point, was some fanciers for that.
Yeah, that still has to go to a hearing. no guarantee that you're going to get the permit, because it's a permit that's, you know, granted to the village board, not the staff. And in that case, if the neighbors are really anti, you know, you would hope that somebody comes in for a permit like that, they've got good relations with their neighbor, and neighbors would support it. But if they don't, I can't see the village granting a permit.
So just to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, what we're saying by that fancier's permit is if there was an individual in the community that wanted to possess one of these exotic species, they would submit a permit, and every homeowner within 200 feet of that said property would be notified.
Right.
And then there would be a public hearing.
Well, public hearings are all, I mean, the people around it are notified personally through the mail. But the entire public is notified all the time, because it's posted on our website, it's posted at Fox's Piggly Wiggly, and posted here, and I think at one of the banks.
The post office and the association.
That fancier's permit would be for anything on this list? Or only certain things?
No, the fancier's permit was, meant to be an exception for anything on the list, and also the numbers. If under the regular permit, you set a specific number for a specific type of animal, then a fancier's permit would possibly enable someone to have more than that number, subject to court approval.
So somebody could come in and want more dogs or cats or just, that's what I'm saying, just to the.
Just the exotic.
Item G, third page, fourth page, number 3. Can somebody provide clarification as to their interpretation of that statement?
Animals at large.
Outside of the dwelling.
Yeah.
Outside that?
Outside of the dwelling.
Outside of the dwelling, okay.
Yeah, if you go back to the conditions for allowing the permit, one of them is that the animal would have to be securely held and maintained in quarters so constructed to prevent her escape. And if one should escape, then that would instigate an animal at large complaint.
What if they're physically removed from the dwelling by the said property owner?
For what purpose?
I don't know. Good question.
You mean just to take them outside with them?
To get
Oh, you
some-
mean like
to
maybe
get
going,
some-
maybe going to a school and.
Walking out to the mailbox.
I would consider that large.
If they
control
have-
of the,
What about in this particular situation where there's a shared driveway? And the pet owner has a boa constrictor around their neck or a venomous snake around their neck?
Well, I don't think we'd allow venomous snakes anyways.
Just a question.
But if it's under the control of the owner, I would assume it's not at large.
Now, you can compare it to a dog. If a dog is running around the village, it's at large. But if it's within its own yard with its owner, and the owner has control of it, then it's controlled. But, you know, condo association is different when it comes to considering whose green space is what. Because we deal with it over here with this condo association. The green space is everybody's.
Common area.
Yes. So when someone wants to let their dog go to the bathroom, they can let it go anywhere, and we've had that dispute over and over. It's like, look, it's your rules.
Thank you, Chief.
I guess the question I would have, just so we know going forward, if you look at B, under definitions, the last sentence in that paragraph, the including but not limited to the following. Even if we add more animals to the list here that are not on there right now. I think, are we planning on keeping that? I mean, that's kind of the catch-all. I mean, to know what all these animals are, to put them on a list is really gonna be difficult. And that's where we were saying, this is kind of the catch-all. If something shows up that is debatable, whether it's exotic or a wild animal, well then they have other, you know, it can go through other avenues to have that defined with, you know, village board or staff, I guess.
No, I think you gotta keep it in there. My opinion.
I guess what, you know, do we need to define the list even more than if that is in there?
Well, I think that the list to me is just examples. It's not all inclusive.
Right. That's how we tried to develop it.
I like the examples, because I think it gives a common, everyday, ordinary citizen an opportunity to be able to relate to this terminology, where the terminology that's used up in definition B, it's a little bit more vague. So I think by listing out the species that we have there, people can relate to those. Maybe they're experiencing them at the zoo, they've seen them out in the wild, they've heard of them, their friends might own some. I like having it in there. And I think you've assembled a very good collection of items.
Well, I guess if you guys, you know, if you're gonna think about what other possibilities you may wanna add, I guess if you could let us, you know, as we go along and update the list.
I was just kind of wondering why, you know, when I saw the only really fish species was a shark, and why, you know, we include sharks in here, which I would think would be a very, very difficult animal to keep, since they have to be moving all the time. You don't have same type of things as a fish, regular fish. But I know there's some people that have tropical fish tanks, and they have some of these miniature sharks that it's quite common. I didn't know if I'd put any fish species on the list.
Let's think about that.
I know there's poisonous fish.
How about a prawn? I think that's it.
But they're probably pretty ineffective when they're out of the water. I could see somebody that's a drug lord or something like that having a pool of piranha. You don't pay your drug bill, you're gonna have your hand in the.
It's a movie.
Yeah, it's a movie, I've seen it in the movies. That's why they got alligators and crocodiles and lions and, yeah. Yeah.
I like section C, Russ, as far as, you know, we're looking at come up with that magic number. I also like, especially if we do confirm that there's a time frame that any owner that may be over and above that has time to, whatever, decide the time frame to, remove those, animals in question, within a reasonable time. I would say starts tomorrow.
Well, right, you know, because there is an economic thing to this, and I certainly don't want the village being hit with a big cost of animal removal.
Plus, I think it's the more important thing is you have to provide adequate time for these to go to another dwelling where the similar care could be anticipated versus making a rash decision with a short duration that then there's no control over it. I'd much rather see the animals be well taken care of in some other appropriate environment.
Well, I think this is a sense approach to it. And certainly, it's going to be different for some than others. Because if your, say the number ends up being 5, well, some may have 300 and some may have 10. So it's going to be different for them. But to me, this is a common sense way of approaching it.
So you're looking for a motion to table this?
Okay, we'll just bring it back the next meeting.
I guess one other comment to the staff, Russ, they're doing a lot of research on this, input, whatever more you can give to us as far as, other than South Milwaukee or whatever there may be, help us to come up with that, those numbers.
Yeah, and I know I had many calls from, different American Reptile Association and whatnot. They prefer not to see a number on there, but I understand their point. But, at the same time, there's people that have dogs and cats that love, and would rather not have a number either, and we put a number on that, so. Okay, we will bring it back at the next meeting.